My name is Ben Somervell, and I'm a second year theology student, undergraduate at St Chad's College in Durham, which has a lovely view of the rose window of the cathedral and its lovely end on this side with the World War I memorial as well. But anyway, I won't bore you with history, but it is a great view, admittedly. And this is the room I'm staying in whilst I'm in Durham. I think I mentioned that I'll be staying here for 2 weeks. And I just thought that as it's such a lovely evening, as the weather's very good and it's not raining as it was earlier today, I'd just give you a very quick tour around a couple of the churches and chapels of Durham, just so you can get used to it, particularly if you're a Durham offer holder and you're expecting to come here. By the way, really good luck for Thursday. Hope you get the grades and you meet the offer, because Durham is a wonderful place to study any subject. Personally, I think it's particularly a wonderful place to study theology, because that's what I study. And it's a particularly good place to be a Christian if you're in the know. And DUECC is really trying to get people in the know and to encourage everybody to find a church that is for them, that suits them, that fits them. And if they want continuity and if they want to remain in the same tradition that they were brought up with, as I personally did, but others didn't. Some others didn't, some others did. There's a lot of diversity on that I just don't think is recognised enough. And so anyway, we're trying to rectify that, and we're trying to fill the gap and that niche. But enough of me talking, let's get going. So, first up on our little tour is St Chad's College Chapel, my college chapel. Which I confess I personally don't actually go to very much, just because it's not really my own personal way of connecting and engaging in worship. It's part of the Anglo-Catholic tradition within the Church of England, the so-called High Church tradition. Indeed, Joe Cassidy, who is very famous within the college, is very much part of that tradition. But personally, I just don't connect and engage. And it's all about what you connect and engage with that's important in your spirituality and prayer life, in my view. And that's something I've very much found right throughout first year, is sometimes a lot of Christians in Durham will say to you, you've got to connect in this way, or you've got to pray in that way, you've got to have a certain prayer routine that does this, or you've got to read these passages every day, or you've got to wake up at 7 and read the Bible every day, or you've got to pray and do this, and you've got to go to this meeting and that committee. And actually, they're not realising often that we're all made in the image of God, of a perfect God, but he's made us all unique, he's made us all special with our own gifts, talents and abilities. And in DUECC we're trying to, under my presidency anyway, and this is what I set out in my election speech, we're trying to bring back the diversity and variety and debate and multitude of opinions within student Christianity in Durham, and trying to make that voice more prominent and more widely heard. Anyway, on with our tour. Open the door of my college, number 18, there we are, and this is the glorious front of Durham Cathedral with its wonderful, beautiful rose window, absolutely iconic. So my room is just over there, so you can see the great view. And we've got the wonderful war memorial in the middle, another iconic part of the cathedral. I'll just take you around the other side. Here, this used to be St Chad's College Chapel originally, but then Chad's ended up giving it up for some reason that no one can quite explain to me, and now it's the Durham Museum Heritage Centre. It's well worth a look inside there if you're interested in history of the church, and so that's a very interesting place to go. And so here we have the glorious central tower of the cathedral. Unfortunately has what my dad terms a tea cosy on the top of it at the minute, because of some unexpected long-term building work that's being done there. Apparently they just keep on repairing it and then realising that actually it needs more and more work done. But there we are. I've got the theology department here, no bias from myself, but you know, if you want to take an elective in theology, a module outside of the main discipline, even if you don't study it, then it's worth mentioning. And you've got the other two towers at the other end over there, and we'll go around there in a moment. And then you've got the Pemberton rooms of the Durham Union with the Pemberton lecture rooms, where theology talks and talks on religion are often held. Then you've got the castle. Castle has two different chapels. It has one chapel that is just as old as the cathedral itself, over 900 years old. It's known as the Norman Chapel to everyone, and they do a wonderful Taizé session there every week on a Tuesday evening, I think. And they also do a wonderful sung compline service there with their chaplain, Dr. Rick Waite. Then we've got the Palace Green Library here, well worth a visit, and we've got a building that looks suspiciously like a chapel or a church, but is neither, and is actually the Department of Music. So now, if I go over to this end of the cathedral, we've got this wonderful iconic scene of these two towers here, and then on the right we have another iconic scene of St Cuthbert's Cross. Amazing scenes. So this is the building, the glorious building, which we will which we in DUECC, and all members, supporters of DUECC, and anybody who wants to come along, doesn't matter what you believe, who you are, what you think, as long as you're a student at Durham, or we're even allowing people who aren't students at Durham, just anybody, to come along. We want to fill the cathedral with people. We want to fill the cathedral with atheists, agnostics, Buddhists, Hindus, Sikhs, Roman Catholics, Anglicans, Anglo-Catholics, Charismatics, just anybody and everybody, people from all kinds of denominations, traditions and faiths, and those of none, just to experience the glory of the building, and just to experience a whole wide variety of different services and service types, including Taizé, so quite short, repetitive worship chants, which I personally engage and connect with a lot, originally to my surprise, and which we use on the Lindisfarne retreat, which is, by the way, a must strip. Here's 3 of St Cuthbert's crosses in rows, which is quite nice. I don't think they'll let me into Castle to show you the chapels there at the moment, but yes. So this is the gatehouse to Castle with its towers, and people actually live in the centre of it. Unfortunately, the castle is completely closed off to all visitors today because of a private event that's being hosted. But I will ensure that I will show you inside the chapels and make a filmed video tour, a short one, of both of them in due course. So keep your eye out for that. And then this is one of the glories of Palace Green, is you turn around and then there's a beautiful Norman cathedral that's almost 1,000 years old. Which site is preferable? Who really knows? It's a cafe called Café Dral, rather confusingly, but I think it is a great name, and it's on this little street up to the cathedral called Owengate. And this is where we have our free welcome afternoon, our free welcome Freshers Social in Freshers Week at 4 p.m. on Friday the 5th. So that's in Freshers Week. And then just over there on Sadler Street, on the north, on the Sadler Street, the first property on Sadler Street on the left of Queen's Court, is Sanctuary 21, run by the Salvation Army. If you're interested in voluntary work, the Salvation Army Church and Community Centre are just down there, so please do get involved with them. I know a lot of students who do that and find it really fulfilling experience, and see a lot of insights into the lives of others. And then if you come back here, you've got that wonderful view, iconic view that's often on Durham prospectuses, of the 2 central towers. The whole city just seems to revolve, and the whole skyline just seems to revolve around this enormous building with such heritage and such history that dominates the skyline. In fact, one of my lecturers once told me that he knew an atheist professor in a study of religions department in Durham, and he said I had to leave Durham because everywhere I went there was the city cathedral dominating the landscape. But I think that's something that's quite important to have as a Christian, is a constant symbol of the surety and the centrality of Christ and the Christian faith, that you constantly come back to, a sort of anchor in the middle. One of the preachers at my church once spoke of it like this. She said, when I first arrived in Ormskirk, that's my hometown, I was very poor at direction, and so I needed certain landmarks to point me to where I was going in relation to them. and one of those landmarks was the parish church, Ormskirk Parish Church, which is a completely unique church in England because it's the only one to have both a tower and a spire at the same end, and it has a very tall steeple with a big spire on it, and then it has a big West Tower, Great West Tower. No one knows quite why it's so big, but anyway. And it's unbelievable because she said that I was always drawn back, and my path and my direction and my journey was always made clear. As soon as I could see the church, I knew where I was. And that's what it should be like in our lives. As soon as we know where Christ is, where he's acting, what he's doing, and as soon as it becomes clear for us why he's doing what he's doing, or why he's done what he's done in hindsight, we then start to gain a sense of perspective on things, and we start to see our way forward, and things don't seem too quite as difficult or tough as perhaps they once did. And I think that message is very, very important. Here we are at St John's College Chapel, which is also known as the College Chapel of St Mary the Less. Which is also known as the Chapel of St Mary the Less, because it's a chapel at ease for that parish. So it's not actually in that parish, but it's the nearest chapel or church building that they could have to it. And so there we can see the sign, and it says, "Welcome to the Church of St Mary the Less." It's also St John's College Chapel, a quiet space for all. They host many daily services in there. Anglican services they have on weekdays from Monday to Friday. They have morning and evening prayer and compline. Mostly ordinands attend that as part of the necessary requirements for their training, but they will do different ordinand will do a reading or a prayer or whatever each time, which is very nice to have that variety and for them all to be training on the job. And as I say, here we have worship for ordinands, for non-ordinands, for a very diverse group of people, but also on Saturday and Sundays, St John's College very kindly let the Orthodox community in Durham, which is a very big community when compared to Orthodox communities elsewhere in England, it lets them use the premises for their worship services. So they have one on a Saturday and they have one on a Sunday, and one of them is Divine Liturgy, which I think is on the Saturday. I've been along with one of our current Orthodox reps, the Orthodox denomination rep, Katia Koshlova, who's one of my very best friends at St Chad's College, and she's a regular attender there, and she very much likes it. So yes, I know a little bit about that. Now we're going back. On the way back we go and pass St John's College itself, which is number 3 on the South Bailey, and there we also have based within it Cranmer Hall, which is of course and very well known open evangelical theological college within the Church of England for training priests, and so that's very exciting to have that on this street, along with many other academic colleges, to have such a wide variety of people doing their courses for such a wide variety of different reasons. And then here we have a wonderful entrance into an area which is very confusingly called the college, because it's not actually a college of Durham University. And then if you go down there and turn right, you get to Durham Cathedral Cloisters, and then if you go around you can get into Durham Cathedral's library, which you need your university card for, but it's mainly theological books, which for me is great, but may not be so great for you, presuming that you're not a theologian. And so now we go past the Durham Union Society and its rooms and bar, and then we pass some properties for St John's College, number 23, and then we come along to St Chad's College and Grad's House and Langford House and Lightfoot House, where I lived last year and will be living this coming year, which I'm very grateful for. And then we keep going, and there's actually a plaque here just outside my room to a man called George Body, who was a key figure in the Oxford movement, or which is also known as the Tractarian movement, because the tracts it wrote in newspapers, tracts for the Times, defending their own beliefs against the popular criticism of the day. That was an Anglo-Catholic movement in the Church of England, which has had tremendous influence on the current shape and demographic of, not demographic, but the current, well, tradition of the Anglican church, clergy, I should say. And it is a big wing of the Anglican priesthood today. And so that's very important. And it's very interesting to be at a college which is essentially and to a large extent founded on that basis of the Oxford movement and on people who are strongly inspired by it. And so it's encountering that diversity of different traditions so we can understand each other better, much better, from within. And I discovered this on the DUECC retreat to Lindisfarne, and I saw that all of the misconceptions about other denominations and other traditions were just broken down by speaking to people who were from those traditions, who knew what they were talking about and who worshipped and practiced and sang and said in those traditions already. And here we are at Hatfield College Chapel, very nice building, and they have evensong there at 6:30 p.m. on Monday evenings. All are welcome, and it's a lovely service with one of the best college choirs, arguably the best in Durham, so well worth coming along for that. Another building that very much deserves an honourable mention in this short and brief tour guide, and that is Allington House, or Aylington House. People pronounce it differently depending on well, I don't know what it's depending on, but anyway, it's a community centre, but it's also where the Quakers have their worship and community based. They don't like to be called a church because they think that has implications for membership and for lots of other reasons. But they like to be called Quakers Society or the Quaker Meeting. And so there you can see the Quakers, the Religious Society of Friends. And quite a few of my relatives back a few generations were Quakers. And so I've always been interested in finding out more about that tradition. And if you are interested in that, then do go ahead and get in touch with Dr. Matthew Guest, who's a lecturer who will be lecturing me actually on Religion in Contemporary Britain, a module for second year theology and religion students, which you can take as an elective module if you'd like. And he is a very nice man, and he will certainly get you involved in the Quaker society or community here in Durham in Aylington House. And so they meet every Sunday in this Aylington House Community Centre at 11 a.m. And the key motto or slogan for them here is Quakers live a life rooted in the transforming experience of the divine. So often, one of the things that I want to get across in my presidency of DUECC is that so often, in ecumenical dialogue, we realise that actually so many of our differences are not vital, crucial issues, and so many of our differences aren't actually that different. There isn't actually that much of a difference of opinion. The difference is slight nuances on the relative importance of certain issues like sexuality or gender, or the emphases on certain things. Like in the Anglican tradition, there's in some quarters, like the Anglo-Catholic and Central quarters, there is a strong emphasis on liturgy, whereas in the charismatic tradition, there isn't such a great emphasis. And so it's not actually about these key, crucial dividing issues of the life, death and resurrection of Jesus or the Apostles' Creed. No, we all agree on that completely. It's just about how exactly do we apply certain things and certain biblical verses, how do we interpret them, what's the precise way, and also, more importantly, where do our emphases lie. But these aren't differences which should divide us and cause us to split and cause us to create schisms and so on and so forth, because we should come back to, a bit like I was talking about with the cathedral as the anchor geographically of the city, we should come back to the unity we have in Christ and our cornerstone, our foundation. And there's a wonderful hymn, absolutely glorious hymn, that's often used as a processional hymn in the Anglican and Protestant denominations, which is called Christ is Made the Sure Foundation. And that is, for me, such a key thing in our thinking. So now we're going to continue down Silver Street, and we're going again past Sanctuary 21 and the Salvation Army Church and Community Centre, passing what is the library, a bar, and Zzz's, a restaurant. There's lots of restaurants on the Bailey, so you won't have any problems eating if you're based on the Bailey. Also University Bookshop, Waterstones, and even though there's another Waterstones a bit further down, and there's La Tasca, and if we keep on coming, we will eventually get to St Nick's Anglican Evangelical, or Evangelical Anglican Church, whose spire is just peeking up there in front of us. And St Nick's is a very nice and welcoming and friendly church. Cara Eilert is our St Nick's rep, and so get in touch with her if you'd like to try out St Nick's and then hopefully settle there for the long term of your stay in Durham for university. So I think it's very important that Christians who come to university settle long term in a church with a community that they know is praying for them and thinking of them and helping, where they're each mutually supporting each other. And there's lots of passages in the Bible which says build one another up, support one another, encourage one another. And if you do that, then other difficulties in life and in Christian faith in life seem to become much less difficult. So here we are. So it's got pride place in the central marketplace of Durham, and it's got a thriving student community there, and it's got a wonderful mix of both more traditional liturgical services like their 5:30 p.m. service on a Sunday evening, which generally has an older congregation in my experience, and their sometimes all-age service, sometimes a bit more formal service at 11 a.m. In the morning, and they have an evening service at 7 p.m. And that is generally for students. Creative, innovative space for worship, as they label it. They've also got their own church shop called the Gateway World Shop, which sells Fair Tree products as well as others. It's well worth a visit in there. They have different Christmas gifts at Christmas and Easter gifts at Easter, which are well worth having a look at. And then they've got this wonderful floral and rosal crown that they've just had here, except it's not a crown, it's a bishop's mitre. And if we head this way, then we can pass the market hall, and we can pass Dawson and the market tavern, the pub, the market hall, etc. And then eventually we'll cross over what's called Frammelgate Bridge, and there's a wonderful view of the cathedral and the castle together there, and there's also a wonderful view of Prebends Bridge, but I'll say more on that when we get there. And then just after that is a church on a street called Crossgate, and the church is called St Margaret's of Antioch. And it's a wonderful Norman church, almost as old as the cathedral and the Norman chapel themselves, and with a wonderful view. But again, I'll say more when I get there. And so, I think hopefully you should be able to gauge from this footage that Durham is a wonderful, wonderful city of beauty and city of nature. And city of heritage and history that's just so melded and moulded and just forged into its very being, its existence, its life. And that is so wonderful, and it's such a privilege and an honour and a pleasure being a student here to be able to get up and see the rose window out of your window, or to see the cathedral from afar, Hillbead, or from the top of the bridge next to the Leazes Road Library there, and to just have these wonderful, glorious scenes and imagery and landscapes just built in. So there we can just see the tower of St Margaret of Antioch's Anglo-Catholic church, so a high church within the Church of England, like I mentioned before. There's quite a few of those such churches in Durham. On the right we can just see the tower of St Godric's Roman Catholic Church, and then on the other side of the bridge we can start to see the cathedral peering out and the castle, and there is Prebends Bridge, which is the bridge that we are going to start processing from to the cathedral. It's only a fairly short walk. We're going to process from there, and with candles and led by a choir, but it's going to be silent to suit a more prayerful, reflective, meditative mood of the service which we're hoping to have, and the whole event in the cathedral which we're hoping to have, and that fits along with the Taizé and the time of quiet prayer that we're having with all of the college chaplains. So I hope you found that tour useful, informative, helpful. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below, or message us on our Facebook page, or tweet us at DUECC, or email us at duec.society@durham.ac.uk. So hopefully we'll be uploading more videos soon, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Please give us your feedback, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday the 1st of October as you arrive in Durham. We wish you all the best for that and for Results Day on Thursday, and we also hope to see you at our free Freshers Welcome Social at 4 p.m. at Cafe Dral on Owen Gate, which I just showed you on the way up to the cathedral. So be there or be square. Thanks.